What happens when power is no longer enough? When not even kings nor sages can lift their gaze? This is not a myth, not a legend. It is a prophecy, an ancient text forgotten by religion, feared by empires. It speaks of a day when the quietest figure in the universe will rise, not with an army, not with fire, not with speeches, only with presence. And on that day, those who thought they ruled the world won't be able to bear the weight of his face. A judgment that needs no words, a justice that won't accept excuses. The Son of Man will not come to warn. He will come to reveal what was always there. And when they see him, it will be too late. Because this story is not about his arrival, but about our blindness. The whole world will look down, and those who once ruled will tremble like children. Are you ready to face the only one who never bowed his head? Power before truth, when power is not enough. This is the Son of Man, who possesses righteousness, and with whom righteousness dwells, and all the mighty shall fall before him, and they will not be able to lift their faces. First, Enoch 46:5-6. This scene is not allegory. It is a prophetic sentence. It is not about a judgment announced with trumpets. It is about a gaze that shatters the foundations of pride. Enoch saw it long before the world knew him. He saw him standing among the righteous, silent, hidden, but waiting for the moment when the world could no longer ignore him. And when that moment comes, it won't be the poor who tremble, but the kings, the elites who built their empires upon lies. Revelation 6:15 echoes this with chilling words. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains, saying, "Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne." Do you see it? The same scene, the same reaction, the same shame, because they cannot withstand his gaze. And they cannot, because they never sought justice, because they sat on human thrones, forgetting that all authority comes from above. As Jesus said to Pilate, "You would have no power over me if it had not been given to you from above." From Nebuchadnezzar, who erected statues of himself, to modern empires cloaked in the flag of morality while selling their souls for power. Daniel 7:9-10 describes the throne of the Ancient of Days, and beside him a figure appears who receives everlasting dominion, the Son of Man, the very same. Enoch saw him before Daniel. Daniel saw him before John. 3 witnesses, one truth. When he is revealed, the conflict won't be war, it will be revelation, because everything man built without truth will be laid bare with a single gaze. The thrones of men hold no weight before the presence of the one in whom righteousness dwells. And then the mighty will fall, not because of punishment, but because of shame, because they will not be able to lift their faces before the only king who never sought to be crowned by men. And on that day, what we now call power will be dust beneath his feet, because judgment will not come with wrath, it will come with righteousness. And that is even more terrifying. The true terror being unable to look at him. The shame that cannot be hidden. There are no whips, there is no fire, there are no screams, only a gaze. And before it, the most powerful in the world, kings, judges, leaders, false prophets, bow their heads and cannot lift them. The Book of Enoch says it bluntly. They will not be able to lift their faces before him. But why? What is in his face that breaks even the strongest? Perhaps it is not his wrath. Perhaps it is his purity. Perhaps he does not show them who he is, but who they are. like a mirror that does not forgive, like a judgment that does not scream, but reveals everything. And they cannot bear it, because in his gaze, every hidden thought, every secret pact, every lie dressed as virtue, every throne built upon corpses, is laid bare. In that moment, the true punishment is not condemnation, it is revelation. They cannot look at him because their entire life was a flight from the truth. The face is a symbol of honor. In ancient times, to show one's face was to show one's dignity. That's why hiding it is a symbol of shame. Like Adam hiding in the garden, like Cain when he was marked. The face that cannot rise is the soul that knows there are no more excuses. It wasn't the sword, it was the conscience. It wasn't the voice, it was the silence. As Psalm 34 verse 5 says, "Those who looked to him were radiant, and their faces were not ashamed." Do you see? Those who look at him are saved. Those who cannot are already judged, because his face does not condemn, his face reveals. And that is more terrifying than fire, because fire consumes, but the gaze of the Son of Man transforms forever, and not everyone is ready to be seen. The terror will not be the end of the world. The terror will be understanding that you lived your whole life running from a gaze that was always upon you. And when it finally appears, you will not be able to withstand it. Because the shame doesn't come from the punishment. It comes from knowing that your soul already knew the truth. The day everything falls, no throne will stand unshaken. It wasn't a war. It wasn't an earthquake. It wasn't an angel with a sword. It was his presence. The Son of Man appeared, and the thrones began to fall. One by one, marble cracked, gold split, crowns rolled on the ground like broken toys. Enoch hinted at it. There will be no warning, no speeches, no decrees, only an appearance, and before it, everything built on lies, ego, or injustice will collapse without the need for judgment. It won't be a shouted condemnation. It will be a presence impossible to resist. Isaiah 2:17 foretold it centuries earlier. The haughtiness of men shall be brought low, and human pride humbled. The Lord alone will be exalted on that day. On that day, structures will fall, not just palaces, also names, brands, narratives, empty religions. The Son of Man does not raise his voice. He does not threaten. He does not argue. He simply walks. And as he does, pride shatters, lies dissolve, and faces bow without being forced, because the soul recognizes what the mouth denies, and there is no political, social, or spiritual altar that can remain standing before him. Psalm 82:7 prophesied it. You will die like mere men. You will fall like every other ruler. Do you see? Not even those chosen by power are safe. Everything falls, not because he destroys, but because he reveals. And what was built on deception cannot stand in the light. That will be the day, not of vengeance, but of revelation, not of violence, but of truth. And truth doesn't need to shout to bring down an empire. It only needs to appear. And when he does, there will be no throne that doesn't tremble. The fall of those who rule us, and they all fell. This is not just about kings with ancient crowns. It's not a story of fallen empires. This prophecy does not belong to the past, because the thrones still stand. Today, they don't wear swords or armor. Today they wear dark suits, expensive watches, and rehearsed smiles. Rulers, magnates, billionaires, preachers with private jets, corporations shaping the soul of the world. And all of them, every single one, was also reached by Enoch's vision. This is the Son of Man, and all the mighty shall fall before him, and will not be able to lift their faces. 1 Enoch 46:5-6. Why can't they look at him? Because the gaze of the Son of Man doesn't accuse with words, it accuses with existence. His presence reveals everything the powerful have hidden. The signed lies, the empty promises, the campaigns funded with suffering, as if his face were a mirror that cannot be endured. Psalm 24, 3-4. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. They cannot ascend, they cannot look, because the brilliance of that justice reminds them of all they built in darkness. Isaiah 2:12. For the day of the Lord of hosts shall come against all the proud and lofty, and they shall be brought low. And so it shall be. The United Nations will not legislate redemption. The G7 will not decree a shield from his gaze. And religion? What will the temples do, where God was replaced by algorithms? What will the prophets of prosperity do, when the true prophet looks at them in silence? Revelation 6:15-16. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the mighty men, hid in caves and said to the mountains, Fall on us. Because no army can resist what cannot be corrupted. No speech can convince the incarnate truth. That day, they will fall. Not because someone pushes them, they will fall, because everything they built had no foundation. And when the cornerstone they rejected appears, the entire structure will collapse. Luke 20:17-18. The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken. That stone is no longer hidden. His presence doesn't need to speak. It is enough that he looks, and all will bow, because that day there will be no modern idol that doesn't tremble. Money, fame, ego, false spirituality, all will fall. And in the end, when the dust settles, only he will remain, the one who was chosen and hidden. The invisible message, justice that cannot be bribed, and then only light remains. He didn't come with swords, he didn't shout, he didn't destroy temples. He simply entered, and the darkness had nowhere left to hide. John 3:19. And this is the condemnation, that light has come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light. But what if judgment is not violent wrath, but the consequence of living with our backs to the truth? What if we were never punished, but simply unable to look? Because this justice can't be bribed. It doesn't bargain with selfish prayers. It cannot be twisted by last-minute donations or promises. Ecclesiastes 12:14. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. This is not the judgment we expected. There is no judge shouting. There is a presence that simply reveals everything. And when we see it, we can no longer keep lying. What was hidden is not destroyed. It is revealed, as if justice were a sun that illuminates even the deepest corners of the soul. And when that light enters, faces lower, not out of fear, not out of threat, but because truth can no longer be denied. Hebrews 4:13. Nothing in all creation is hidden from his sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of him to whom we must give account. That is the true judgment, not the destruction of the wicked, but the exposure of the soul. Because it's not about punishment, it's about what happens when the veil is torn, when the masks fall, when silence becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, not everyone is ready to look, because the Son of Man did not come to destroy. He came to reveal. And the one who cannot endure truth will collapse beneath their own lies, the gaze that shook empires. And the powerful shall fall before him, and they shall not be able to lift up their faces. 1 Enoch 46:6. So it is written, not as a metaphor, not as a myth, but as a prophetic sentence. The world is full of thrones, thrones of gold, thrones built with speeches, with lies, with fear, but all of them are empty. All bow their heads. Kings, the rich, pastors, presidents, all of them. Because he didn't shout, didn't boast, didn't raise his voice, nor his hand. He simply appeared, and the false collapsed. Because there are truths that don't need to be defended, only revealed. And now you know. Judgment will not be announced. It will be inevitable. And you, will you be able to hold his gaze? If this message shook you, don't ignore it. Share this message. Subscribe if you can still hold the gaze. And leave a comment. Do you believe he has already been revealed?